What's your biggest challenge as a freelancer or sole practitioner? Dealing with tricky clients? Avoiding scope creep on projects? Or maybe it's simply combating the loneliness and isolation of working from home. Being your own boss is not always easy. Thankfully, we've got some practical tips and a few stories that should help you in part 2 of my conversation on freelancing with Ange Lyons on this episode of Architecture Business Club, the weekly podcast for small firm founders who want to build their dream business in architecture and enjoy more freedom, flexibility and fulfillment in what they do. I'm John Clayton, your host. I know that building an architecture business can feel hard, especially if you're a sole practitioner. The good news is that you don't have to do it alone. In 2024, we launched our membership community to a small group of founding members, including architects, architectural technologists and interior designers. We meet online each week and occasionally in person to support each other in building our businesses and to have some fun along the way. In 2025, we're opening the doors to a limited number of new members. If you'd like to join this supportive group of like-minded professionals, now's your chance. Just go to architecturebusinessclub.com/waitlist or click the link in the show notes and enter your details so we can let you know when and how to join this incredible group. And if you have any questions, just email John, that's Jon, at architecturebusinessclub.com. Now let's continue our conversation about freelancing. Well, that's totally different. So that's a redesign. Yeah. That's total redesign. Oh, but that's a revision. Like, where does it say in the contract that, you said we could have as many changes as we want, and that's where it can get a bit sticky, I think. Have you had that sort of experience, Ange, in graphic design and branding?
Definitely. I've had it recently with a website, actually. And I'd spoken to the client from the beginning saying, are you sure you want this? Because it wasn't looking like how we spoke when we actually first started the project. And she was like, yes. And then a few months down the line, it changed and it was a redesign. And it's just interesting because it is uncomfortable, but it is uncomfortable, and we're all human. I wish I could be more ruthless in some things, but I did it, and I've included it in the price. I've had to reflect that but it's horrible. Yeah, it gave you the ick talking about money. It does. But at the end of the day, I won't go into Sainsbury's and say, I'm just going to take that pineapple. I'll pay you when I can. Or, you want your money, don't you? They want their money. So it's the same with business and small, being a freelancer. You've got to list out what you're going to give them. And even if it isn't, when you say revisions, list out what that revision entails. This will be, I don't know what the word would be, say a tweak or a change to what we've decided on the first round. A redesign is something completely different. Yeah. And if you're not happy with that, maybe we need to have another sit down and discuss payment options. Because I know also with some clients, they might not be able to have it all in one go. Maybe discuss payment options. It's still going to happen. I'll still do it for you. But let's break it down into smaller payment plans.
That's a good idea, to give them some options.
So there's always options. But if they still say, well, I'm not doing it, I don't want that anymore. If you're going to break a contract, you break the contract, but make sure you get paid for what you've done. And if you can get paid up front, get the rest of it because they signed the contract. Yeah,
it's so tricky. I did.
It's hard though.
Yeah, a few years ago, I had my fingers burnt with a client, and they said they already had some really specific ideas that they wanted for the renovation and extension of their home. They wouldn't share them. Because this was really strange, because normally it's quite a collaborative process with my clients. So I don't really do much kind of architectural design work these days, but when I used to, it's been very much like client-centric approach where we work together. Mm-hmm. But they were like, well, we want to see your ideas. We don't want... So they were like, we want you to basically, this is kind of the rooms and spaces we're after, but we want to see your ideas and inspiration. That's what we're paying for. And in normal circumstances, it should have rung alarm bells. Well, it did ring alarm bells, but the way that the opportunity had come about was through another company that I was hoping to foster a long-term working relationship with. So I basically was like, well, okay, I'm feeling that this might be a bit of a prickly client, but I'll work with it and we'll see where it goes anyway, because there might be some other work that comes off the back of it. And I really should have listened to my guts, because they were a nightmare to work with. I put my heart and soul into a design that I basically met all of the points on their brief, and they took one look at it and were like, no, we don't like it. That's not what we want. So we want you to just read all of the work you've done, throw it in the bin, and can you just now, here's our sketches that we wouldn't show you before. We now want you to now produce all of the drawings in the 3D model based on these sketches that we already had. Can you just do that? And because I hadn't made it crystal clear in the onboarding with that client to say to them, actually, the way I normally work is it's a collaboration, and you do realise that if you just leave me to go down come up with this design completely on my own, that if you don't like it, it will be fully chargeable for anything else. Because I didn't have that awkward conversation with them at the beginning.
Okay.
I was in an awkward position because they were like, you said we get revisions. This is a revision. Well, we just want you to make these changes. And so I in the end, I got really stressed about it. And then I decided to just take a hit on it. And I did the same. I was like, and then after that, I was like, right,
but
I'm going to make sure that that's, robust now moving forward.
I think both of us in both of those cases, we learned from it, and we've put things in place to learn from that experience. And again, it's tricky being by yourself and not having, we've got so many hats as our business. Just having that one is like, we're not legal people either. So now we've learned how to deal with a legal contract to say, this is the project and this is what's going to be in the projects. And if you do X, Y, Z, you're going to get charged that. So, but again, we both learned from that.
It's not matter how clear I thought something was, like a contract or an agreement, like you can always improve upon it and make it even clearer,
of course.
Which actually that sort of nicely segues onto a follow-up question I was going to ask around, do you have any thoughts on sort of best practices around things like handling invoicing and contracts so that we can avoid some of these pitfalls that we've just been talking about?
I would say invest in contracts that you can either pay for or get a legal person to have a look over it. And there are solicitors that deal with freelancers and smaller businesses that will look at their contracts. There are actually also freelancers and independent companies that just deal with that too. So I definitely say get contracts in place, and not just get them templated. So have a contract for each part of your business that you think you're offering a service to. So for example, I've got a contract for brand and website. I've got one for brand. I've got one for marketing services. So in between all of those, and there might be one that's a bit ad hoc where I'll just pull bits of and the other contracts, but you put out, the basis is pretty much the same. I suppose the foundation is pretty much the same, but then you just actually build up what you're actually going to deliver to that client. And again, going back to that website that I got done over with the redesign, I've put in place where you decide upon this date, and then you pay me the next part of my invoice on this date, and then we decide again on this part, and then you decide and you pay another part of the invoice. So that is all spaced out, and we know where we're going from the beginning, and we break it down. I do that in a system. I know a lot of people have CRM systems. Some people don't. You don't have to have a CRM system, but that's one thing I did invest in this year was Moxie. It's a CRM system, and I get different templates in there, and also do my timings in there. I put my onboarding in there. I have onboarding forms, offboarding forms. I don't do my invoices in there because I've got it all in another software in Free Agent, and I'll do my invoicing in Free Agent, and then but then they'll kind of not talk to. I've not got them to talk to. You can do it through Zapier, but I've not got them to. I'm fine enough to know that that's where my invoices are, and this is where my contracts and forms are. So at the beginning, I looked online. I got contracts online, and people sell them templates. They could be legal contracts, or you can invest in a legal person to go over your contracts for you.
That's great advice. And you sound very organised, Ange, as well. Like you've just the CRM system that you described there. That sounds really good. Regarding the contracts, depending on what it is specifically that you do within architecture. So some of the professional institutes have some contracts that their members can use. So if they're a member of, if they're an architect and they're a member of the RIBA, that they do have some contracts that people can use. And actually they do some documents that you can purchase from them. Mm-hmm. So even if you're a consultant, you're not an architect, but you work within architecture, you can still use some of their paperwork. The professional organisation that I'm in, CIAT, they also have some templated documents that their members can use. I'm not sure about some of the other organisations because there's various, like for surveyors, there's the RICS, you've got CIOB. I'm sure that each of those institutes probably has some kind of templates or contracts that people could use as a starting point. But your advice and suggestion about finding somebody, a freelancer or a solicitor, somebody to look over it, because as good as those documents are that we can get from those institutes, they're not always a perfect fit for your particular business and the packages and services that you offer. So I'd previously used a combination. I'd used a contract that I'd got from CIAT, which they call their conditions of engagement, I think for like domestic clients, which is like people doing home renovation projects. But then also I'd used a letter contract. So I'd sort of set out a template, which was a standard letter, which went into the T's and C's in a bit more detail, which then that kind of like had developed over time.
Yeah. I know this more so around architect based podcasts, but there's also IPSE, and there's also that's IPSE, and there's also FSB, and they're all good I suppose organisations that help with small businesses. So there's the FSB is the Federation of Small Businesses, and I know that they also offer, if you pay for their membership, they also offer legal advice, especially when you're writing around contracts or if there's any problems with your contracts. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it because I'll let you know. If there's any problems with people not paying contracts or invoices, there's a solicitor called Thomas Higgins. They're solicitors. They're proper legit. Engage with them. If someone's still not paying you, say, for example, after 3 months, contact Thomas Higgins, set up an account with them. They will send out a letter of payment to the company. And normally people, when they get this letter, because it looks very official, and it is official, they will pay up because they don't want to be taken to court. And to engage with Thomas Higgins, it is £25.
Oh, wow. That's really good. Yeah.
So somebody, again, Sophie, I think. Sophie, yeah, she told me about them. But pretty much most of my clients have paid. But this is only in the jurisdiction of the UK.
Right, okay.
I've had a client that's based in the Channel Islands and they've not paid me. And Thomas Higgins said, we can't help you.
Oh, no.
I know, it's annoying. But yeah, if you're having any problems not getting paid, I'd say Thomas Higgins, legal-wise, is a good place to start.
Well, that sounds good. We also, I've got another recommendation for listeners that we did an episode earlier in the year. I can't remember which number, but the guest was Rhonda Jackson. And we talked specifically about fee recovery and about how to go about recovering fees if clients hadn't paid. So if you are struggling, you might want to go and check out that podcast episode as well, because there was some useful insights in there specifically about recovering fees from clients that haven't paid, and actually some preventative measures you can take to make sure that they pay in the first place and you don't kind of have to go down that road. And something else that can be a challenge for freelancers is the social isolation. It can feel quite isolating, especially, if you're working on your own at home. I wondered if we could just talk about that for a moment and to discuss, like, if you've got any suggestions for how we can approach that, because I've certainly experienced it over the years.
Yeah, I'd say it's hard because you are working from home unless you engage. I think in certain communities, you will still be by yourself, and that's I suppose that's a fact. But if you start engaging with them, as I said before, locally, that's the best place to start. You could even like take yourself down to a local co-working space. They're great places for meeting other do you know what, they are going to be small businesses there pretty much most of the time, because if they're in a full-time office, they're going to be in their full-time office with their colleagues. They're not really going to be in a co-working space, but well, they might be, but the majority of people in there are people with us that are freelancers, have their own business. I'd say take yourself off to one of those. If you can't, if there's nothing near you and you don't feel quite ready for that, there's online communities. I'm part of the Being Freelance community. We often have co-working sessions on Fridays together. And then there might be an in-person meetup. There's also, I know there's a few portals online where you can, it's weird because when you, I don't know if people know about this, but when you co-work online, you're on a Zoom call in a room with maybe 20 other, could be 5, could be 20 other freelancers, say what you want to achieve during the session, and then start working. And I know when I told this to Emma Jones, actually, she's part of Enterprise Nation. Actually, that's another really great organisation for freelancers to check out. They've got lots of lunch and learns on there. So it's Enterprise Nation. So I met Emma Jones. I was telling her about it this year. And she was like, co-working online? I don't quite understand. I was like, yeah, we're just literally on a Zoom call and we're working. And then we check in with each other about 45 minutes in. And then we'll have a chat and then go back and work and then do another session of 45 minutes and then be off on our days. But you've made a connection there with people online. Another organisation that I work with is Freelancer magazine, and we do online co-worker sessions. I'm a host of one of them. We always like make people feel welcome, and everyone's just on just on the same level. Everyone's just like working by themselves. No one's got no front or airs and graces. And do you know what the best thing out of that is? That collaboration. Someone might find out that somebody else is down the road from them and they might meet up for a coffee. It does happen. Somebody might say, oh, I need a copywriter. Oh, I know that copywriter's in that group. Let me pass on these details. So it's just, again, that networking of just turning up. And I've had freelancers come after the session and said, oh my gosh, I didn't realise it was going to be like that. Thank you so much. And it's just, I know that's the one thing about meeting people, is that some people just feel quite scared or nervous about it. I try to welcome everybody. Well, I do welcome everybody. But pretty much everyone's in the same boat, so don't worry about it. Try not to overthink it too much. Just come and say hi. And if that's all you say, that's good. If you just want to say hi, just say hi to somebody. But you're starting, and then you'll build on that. What else around loneliness? Do you know what I offer? Sometimes I offer Zoom cuppers. And that's free. Just if someone wants to come and say hello to me, I've got it on my Moxie site. I've built that in so people can book in 15 minutes, just have a Zoom cuppa.
Oh, that's nice.
It's just sometimes if you're by yourself, you just might want to chat. 15 minutes, just chat, and then go about your day.
Well, I think otherwise you can end up sort of stuck in your own head, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? That sometimes just having that opportunity to just have a quick chat with somebody and sort of get out of your own head and maybe bounce a couple of ideas around, and it can be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Remember, don't forget to join the waitlist for our membership community, where you can meet other business owners who want the same thing as you. A thriving business that gives you more freedom, flexibility and fulfillment. Just go to architecturebusinessclub.com/waitlist or click the link in the show notes and enter your details so you don't miss out on this amazing opportunity to improve your business and your life. And if you're enjoying the show, then please leave a 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Now back to the show.
And I know there's other groups that, which one? Bonnie, she doesn't really advertise it as much, but it's there if you want it. She's a copywriter, and she set up Zoom groups for, I think it's called Bonds Poms. It's hard to say. Bonds Poms. And they're set by the Pomodoro timer. So we do actually work on a timer and do work together. And again, you meet people in those groups. So you don't even need to leave your home or your office or wherever you are. You can meet them online.
That's a good thing, actually, that, particularly the online co-working thing, there might be a lot of listeners thinking, like, what? Like, you just meet on Zoom and then you go off and do your own work, and like, that's a bit strange, They might not kind of get their head around it, but it does really work really well. As you say, there is that opportunity to connect with people, but also it's if you struggle with getting round to doing things, or maybe if there's a task that you want to work on your business for an hour or so and you've been procrastinating, getting interrupted, when that's scheduled on your calendar and it's like, I'm going to that co-working session and I'm going to work on that thing that I've not been getting around to doing, it's a great way to help keep you accountable and to get things done. And even that, the simple thing of just turning your camera on and being part of a Zoom room and just saying, I'm going to work on this thing, see you in an hour and a half, it can really help get things done.
Yeah, definitely. And it's as you said, it's the accountability. And when I do my sessions, I always say to people, put it in the chat if you want me to check in on you, because I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I always say, so if you want accountability, put it in the chat. And I always say to them, and don't go on LinkedIn or Instagram and start looking at cute cats. We're here to work. Do go on LinkedIn to market your business effectively, but not right now. But not right now. Yeah.
Do it later.
Do it later. If that's what you want to use the session for, because I know some people have used the session to update their websites. They do their own market. Actually, that is a really good point. A lot of freelancers come to that session and this is their time they've blocked out to actually do their marketing on their business. So it's either updating their website, starting that blog they want to write. I know tomorrow I'm going to join one because I've got my newsletter to write, so I'm going to sit down in that session and write my newsletter. And if it is going on LinkedIn, I'm not looking at it. Go in and spend whatever you need to do, whatever your time limit is on LinkedIn, and do your marketing on there. Connect with some people, comment on some posts, maybe even write a post.
That's a great idea. We sort of touched upon the fact that freelancers are often juggling lots of different things, and they're maybe trying to kind of wear many different hats. They might be juggling client projects and the admin side of their business. Have you got any thoughts on how freelancers can try and manage their time more effectively, to try and stay on top of those creative tasks that they might be working on, as well as those necessary business tasks that might not light their fire?
Oh gosh, it's so hard. It's really hard, because I think I watched a meme of like somebody putting on different hats, and it was like marketing, HR, actually doing the work, finance operator. What I do, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got various things. I have a wall planner. My time is there, but I know what's coming in the day. I have a pad that I mark things out on, and I always have a post-it note that stays the same, that says do one thing today, and then I write down what that one thing is going to be today. If I've got to do that one thing, because we have loads of lists, but my one thing that I have to do today, I make that in bold. I'm like, do that one thing. But time-wise, if I know that I'm got a big project or I need to focus, I use Pomodoro timers quite a lot. I also listen to podcasts while I'm working, and I know that podcast might last, I don't know, half an hour. Then I'll get up, go for a walk, go for a cup of tea, come back, and then I'll work again. I'll time some music. Anything and everything, a little bit around time. I have oh my gosh, I think I must do like Craig. I've got lots of bits of paper on. I have this too. I have a time block where I put things in the hour, what I've got to do for that day. That really helps, because so I have a weekly planning sheet, and it goes from 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night. I don't do it that early and that late, not often anyway. And then I will block out what is happening in that hour, and then it actually breaks down your time of what you've actually done. But that's more of a I suppose a to-do list visual for me, to try and get those things done in that hour. Or in that time space. I do use the CRM system that I've got, Moxie. It's got a timer on it, so every time I click the project that I'm working on, the timer will start. Not that I charge a client per hour. It's more so to know how long I've spent on that project. So,
useful for your benefit. Yeah. You can look back and then
you can exactly, and then you can even build that into your new contracts or your new pricing, because then you think, oh gosh, actually that did take me a bit longer than I expected, or it was a little bit less. So it works both ways. Oh gosh, I try not to look at my phone. I really try hard, but it's very hard. I know people use an app called Forest, and that actually blocks out your phone from any messages and notifications. I've turned off all notifications on social media on my phone.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Or you can use the airplane mode. You just press that button as if you're going on a flight, and it just turns off the data. And
perfect. Yeah.
I think I've got the notifications turned off on mine as well. Although I think that was kind of accidental. But actually, I've quite enjoyed.
You've left it, yeah.
Yeah. I think I changed some settings somehow, and it's just ended up turning them off. And I've left it that way, and I quite like it. So
I did that on holiday about 3 years ago. I turned off all my social media notifications. I've not turned it back on.
Yeah.
So I have to go into the app to have a look at it.
Yeah, well, you can be a bit more. You can make a conscious decision if and when you choose to do that, rather than it sort of controlling you and picking up and distracting you, because those distractions can really derail your day for sure. Yeah. Ange, this has been lovely. I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to chat with you about this, because I think it's such an important topic, and there's so many, particularly in architecture, there's so many that are working on their own. So to be able to put this content together for them to help them with their freelancing journey, I think it's really valuable. What would be the main thing that you'd like everyone to take away from the conversation today?
My main thing, I'd say you are not alone. I'd say you're never alone if you don't want to be alone. You can always find someone out there. And I'm not saying go and join 1,000 communities or go and join like big communities. Even if it's one freelancer buddy, a pal that you feel comfortable with, don't work in isolation. I know we've got to do the work and we have our client work to do, but maybe take, a Zoom break or go for a coffee with them somewhere if you can. But don't work alone. You don't need to be there, because it is very isolating and it can be quite depressing sometimes when you're by yourself all the time. So don't feel like you're ever alone.
That really resonates with me. I feel that this is an opportunity for me to make a shameless plug that the Architecture Business Club will be opening its doors to some new members in early 2025. So please keep an eye out for that, and I will talk about that no doubt in future podcast episodes. So that's going to be something that if you are working in and around architecture, that there's going to be a safe space, a community there for you that you are able to join to meet people online and occasionally in person too, where we can work on our businesses together and help and support each other. So that's something that I'm really excited about. The feedback from the founding members so far has been absolutely incredible. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes in 2025.
Oh, such a great idea.
Yeah, I think so. Ange, was there anything else that you wanted to add that we haven't covered already?
Oh my gosh, what else have we not covered? I can't think of anything else. Do you know what? I think going back, actually, if you want to ask, I'll start again. Going back to the first few questions and conversation that's at the top when we're thinking of creative ways for marketing yourself effectively, I'd say newsletters. I've been using my newsletter for the last couple of years, and it's I think it's so underutilized a form of marketing that people forget it's there. And you can set newsletters up for free. There's MailChimp, there's MailerLite, there's Kit. I'm not advocating any of those or promoting any of those. I'm just saying that they're out there, and starter packs for them are free. It's an easy way for you to create content that you want to be heard for, and it cuts through, I suppose, some of the noise on social media because you're going directly into their inbox. I know there's a lot of email marketers out there that send emails every day. I normally unsubscribe from those because I can't take it every day. But if it's every week or every other week, mine comes out every month, I can just about handle that, and you get to know people and you get to find out what they're about and what they do and how they sell their services. And if people say, I don't know what to talk about, there's always something to talk about. Start with a story. Tell people about who you are and what you do, and tell that story. So I start with my newsletter. I'm going to be my shameless plug now. Pod Love Friday and other designery things. I always start the beginning of my newsletter with a little bit of a story, and then I'll tie in a font or something designery around that. But people do mail me and say, oh, that's so cool. Or I didn't know you did that. Or I'm going to tell my friend about that. And then, or I'm going to put this person in touch with that person. I'm like, wow, you see what the power of a newsletter did.
Oh, that's so cool. I was just going to mention, I have a really sort of simple structure to mine that I will, again, I usually start with a short story, and it's usually just what is like the most interesting thing that I did that week, something like that. So something a little bit personal, and then it will sort of segue into something of value. So usually I'll then just share the podcast episode and maybe some key takeaways. and then it would just usually end with some kind of call to action. So it might just be to book a chat with me, or to tell your friends about the newsletter, see if they want to sign up. Or it might be if I've got a product or a service that we're in the process of launching, that you go and click here and learn more or sign up, that sort of thing. So it's pretty simple, really. I mean, it is, it's a good way to kind of stay in touch with people. Cool. So, Ange, there's one other question that I wanted to ask, and it's nothing to do with freelancing. I love to travel and to discover new places, and I was just wondering if you could tell me about one of your favourite places and what you love about it.
That's so hard.
Yeah, I know, just one, but it can be near or far. It doesn't have to be somewhere exotic if you don't want to. It could just be the end of the street.
It's really hard because I have so many. Do you know what? It is going to be exotic. It's going to be St. Lucia, and that's where my parents are from. And I went when I was 12 years old for the first time, and I was just blown away. First of all, I was blown away by the heat. I got off the plane. Didn't even get off the plane. I was like, what is this heat? And then I got off the plane, met my family, and saw the beauty of the land, the sea colour. The people are just warm. There's a rainforest if you want to go and explore that. There's a non-active volcano. And it's just such a beautiful island. And it's so small. It's such a tiny little island. I mean, we travel thousands of miles away from England to get there. But you can go around St. Lucia in a day. You literally can. You can drive around it in a day, which I have done before. But there's various points where you see different islands, different Caribbean islands. And it's so green. And the sea is aqua blue. And so I've got family there still. And I just love it. I just love St. Lucia. And I know also Hotel Chocolat. I've got their hotel there. I haven't quite got the budget to go to that yet, but maybe one day. But yeah, it was so hard picking St. Lucia, but I'd say that has to be the one because it's my heritage and my home.
I was just trying to visualize it while you were describing it then. And I want to go there. Sounds amazing. It's like we're recording this in December, and it's quite kind of dreary and grey outside. Yeah. And just thinking about that kind of warm Caribbean sun and the sand and the sea
and the food and the fresh food, the fruits, the fish. It's just the rum.
Right, I need to kind of get on the travel agent site now and just get that booked. I'm not sure what my wife would say, where's our savings gone? Don't worry, we're going to the Caribbean. The kids and dog will look after themselves. Brilliant. So Ange, if people would like to connect with you, where would be the best place to do that?
Sure. LinkedIn, I'd love if they want to connect with me on LinkedIn. More than happy to. If you do connect with me, tell me where you heard me. So tell me about this podcast. And my website is lionscreative.co.uk. And you can also sign up to my newsletter if you're interested. And that comes out, again, I won't bombard you. It's once a month, and it's on fonts and designery things and a little bit about me and a little bit about my work. So yeah, I'm also on Instagram, and that's Ange_Lyons. Where I post stories of what I've been up to. Well, I'm going to post this podcast actually in a minute.
Cool. I'll keep an eye out for that.
Perfect marketing, just to say if you want to be on podcasts or talk to people or, tell people what you've been up to. It's a good place to be. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Ange. Oh, thank you so much, John, for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed our chat. And it's such a great topic to talk about. And I'm glad you've highlighted it. So thank you. And thank you for having me. You're welcome. Next time, I chat with copywriter Ellie Senior about PR. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Architecture Business Club. If you liked this episode, think other people might enjoy it, or just want to show your support for the show, then please leave a glowing 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean so much to me and makes it easier for new listeners to discover the show. And if you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode. If you want to connect with me, you can do that on most social media platforms. Just search for @Mr. John Clayton.
The best place to connect with me online, though, is on LinkedIn. You can find a link to my profile in the show notes. Remember, running your architecture business doesn't have to be hard, and you don't need to do it alone. This is Architecture Business Club,